Welcome to the Somewhat Frank podcast, hosted by me, Frank Gruber, and joined by my friends and colleagues, Jen Consalvo and John Guidos. This podcast explores the latest trends and advancements in technology and business, including emerging startups and how they shape today while looking forward towards the future. We also enjoy testing new gadgets and products and sharing our findings too, along with our favorite pop culture picks like music, books, and what we're streaming. This podcast is produced in collaboration with our company, Established. Ready to dive in? Time to be somewhat frank. Welcome back to Somewhat Frank Podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber. I'm the co-founder of Established and Established Ventures, and also the team behind this Somewhat Frank Podcast. All right, so we just had a little bit of a delay because we had spring break. Yeah, we were out there. No, we weren't. We didn't really do much this spring break, but I know Johnny did, so I'm going to jump here in a second and talk about that. But before we do, if you've noticed something different about our podcast, slightly different, like at the intro part or the music or the branding refresh, hopefully you like it. We had our team at Established rework that. We had Simon and Catherine doing some great work there to make us look fresh and clean and just refreshed. So hopefully you enjoy it. Drop us a note at somewhatfrank@est.us if you have questions or thoughts or want to bring a topic to the forefront. But all right, today I'm joined by my friends and colleagues. We've got Johnny Goodtimes, Guidos, and Jen Consalvo. Johnny, you just had spring break. Tell me about it. What's good?
Hi, Frank. Hi, everybody. Hi, Jen. Yeah, it was lovely. We went down to Riviera Maya down in Mexico. Reminded me of our old Cancun spring break days. Couldn't have been more different, actually. It was a lot of eating and just laying on the beach or the pool, which was really nice and needed sometimes. But so, we had a nice spring break. Thanks for asking.
Fantastic. Yeah, we had some good times back in the day, 1999, 2000 time frame. Not to date us, but I think we were there with the MTV crew. So leave it at that.
There was some infamous, we'll bring it up. I always bring it up, but we have some pictures of Frank with Paris Hilton, Pauly Shore, that group. I don't even know if people know those people anymore, but thank the Lord that social media wasn't around back then. But because we literally had those crank cameras. I don't know what you call them, but those are the cameras we had back then. Disposables, right?
Yeah, that's it. Thankfully. All right, moving along here, Johnny. Always good to talk about those good times. All right, Jen, what have you been up to? You spring break as well.
My spring breaks look significantly different than they used to. They include taking little ones to the kids museum, checking out the new local yoga studio, which I'm very excited about. I just tried, what's it called? Myofascial release yoga, which sounds a little scary, but oh my God, it's amazing. Like, rolling your foot on a tennis ball type thing where it really releases all of that fascial, I guess, I don't even know what that is. It's that structure in you that keeps like all your muscles tight, right? And your whole structure tight.
That's what Tom Brady does. I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Brady.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's a football player. He retired, but he's a big deal. And his whole book is all about, and his whole strategy around that, his training is really around doing that. The minute you work out, like you work out hard and then you use these rollers and you get all that tension out of your muscles and stretch them out. Basically.
Yes, we did a lot of the rolling and the yoga.
Awesome. So did you see, was Tom there or no?
I didn't see him.
Okay. You don't know who he looks like anyway. Anyway, moving along. Speaking of sports, I'm excited about the warmer weather. Obviously the Cubbies are back. Go Cubbies. We didn't mention though, last podcast we were talking about Purdue and they did do great. They got all the way to the finals and they did not win, unfortunately, but they played really hard. And boy, they're up. They did a lot better than we all anticipated, I think, and it was nice to watch, but unfortunately fell short to UConn. But moving along, new season, new Cubbies, and they're playing in Boston this week, and they're playing the Red Sox at Fenway Park. So looking forward to heading down to see a game with the fam. So it'll be the first time, I think, for the family to see a game together in a while, and if at all. I think it's the first time at Fenway. So excited about that. Should be a lot of fun, and hopefully it's supposed to be like 60 degrees, which 60 degrees and this time of year out in the East Coast is probably more like 45 with the wind, but it'll be fine. It'll be good. We'll dress warmly. All right, moving along.
Last Cubs game I was at, Frank, with you, it snowed, so hopefully it'll be better than that.
It should be better than that.
April should not be the time for baseball in certain types of or certain areas, or they should have domes or something, because like it just doesn't make sense. This is not fun. And
it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be beautiful.
I was just thinking about, like, it's not even about the game. It's like the seats are so cold, like the whole time.
Well, that's a good reminder to like bring things to sit on, like wrap your sweatshirt and stuff
Right,
around you. Yeah.
right. It's not about like the game. Like you can deal with the weather, but you're sitting on an ice cube for like 3 hours. Like players are moving around. They're not cold because they're moving around. You're on an ice cube. So that's the issue. I guess if you move around more, it'd be better, but you don't as much. So anyway, moving along here. I've had to put a lot of thought in the process of what could be better about that situation, as you can tell. All right, so moving along here, we are now dropping our episodes onto the YouTube. We're out in the interwebs, so you'll be able to see us. You'll be able to hear our beautiful voices. You'll be able to see us like live doing things like with my hands like this. And you'll be able to see what that is now that if you watch, but if you're listening, you're not gonna have any idea what I'm doing. And it's going to make a lot more sense in video. So if you go to our YouTube channel, the established YouTube channel, who produces the pod, you can go check that out. And if you go to soty.link/EST YouTube, you can subscribe, get all of our updates, which are not just these updates. There'll be other updates around our other podcast, which is the Start of the Year podcast, as well as any videos we put out. But you'll be able to sift through and find the interesting stuff, I'm sure. What was I doing with my hands? What was I doing with them? I don't know.
I guess we have to start dressing up a little bit.
Oh, this is, yeah, totally. Yeah, we're gonna go full like suit now. I'm gonna probably end up with a, yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna be sponsored by Prada. Anyway, moving along here. Let's dive in. We got a lot to talk about and not a lot of time, so it seems like the reoccurring theme here. But we're gonna start with Earth. How's that feel? Earth. It was just Earth Day recently. Earth Day every day, right? We've got to keep this movement going. Oh, did you guys do anything fun for Earth Day? Did you go outside or see anything cool?
Was that Tuesday?
It was a Monday.
Monday.
I was out in the garden, so I don't even know that I realized it was Earth Day, but coincidentally, I was out in the garden getting ready for the year and spending some time with the chickens. So yes, I was making the most of my Earth Day this year.
Sounds like, John, you do Earth Day every day, which sounds great. That's what you're supposed to do. But it's just like
I tried.
It's a Hallmark holiday, so you can send a card to somebody for Earth Day. I'm sure you all did that. So that's really what it's about.
I try. What's the point? Being out in nature as much as possible.
I did do some things recently, not necessarily, I guess because it's April and it's springtime, so it kind of goes along with Earth Day, but like started getting into repotting plants, like something I've just sort of collected plants for a while, never really nurtured them, and I'm following all these amazing plant people now on Instagram, and they make it look so awesome when they like these amazing plants. So I repotted a bunch of them, and I actually found some seeds that we had bought a few years ago and started planting them, and they're growing. I just saw a bunch of little sprouts coming up. So yeah, I'm excited.
What kind of seeds are those? Do we know? Or are they?
Violets.
Oh, okay, great. Excellent. Because I know we had a whole like pandemic, like we bought a lot of seeds and some didn't turn out to be that useful. Some didn't even sprout, I don't think.
We tried to plant those last year. We ended up with like one really sad looking cucumber, a few leaves maybe of a type of
carrot.
lettuce.
Remember that carrot?
And yeah, but it looked like a thumb.
It was a stubby.
It was weird.
A stubby carrot that resembled the thumb of a former president. Anyway, we're gonna move along. We're talking about Earth again, and today we're talking about things. There's this article. It's actually in the MIT Reader, which was written by James Powell. It's an article called "Life Below the Sea," and it's a really long article. So if you like reading, it's great. If you don't like reading, this is not your article for you. But you can read the Cliff Notes or just listen to us because we're going to talk about the Cliff Notes of it if you even know what Cliff Notes are. Because some people don't because they didn't have to ever use them. That's why I'm saying that. Anyway, so the summary here is that there's Earth way below the ocean. I'm sorry, there's life way below the ocean and on Earth that is like unbelievably lower than in the planet than we ever thought that Earth could even sustain like life. So that's kind of the gist of it. And the silver lining there is, or kind of aha moment, or whatever you want to call it, is that if that's the case, that means that there could be Earth on other planets that are way below the surface that we don't even know and haven't looked down there enough, so we need to start getting our little picks out and start digging around in Mars or something, or maybe on the moon to see if there's like life down there. So, any thoughts? Gonna get up there and check it out?
Well, this is the article is really highlighting the resiliency of life. So it's challenging these concepts about needing the sun, about what is needed for organisms to live. And so if we have all these creatures living in the darkest recesses of the ocean, what does that mean and what can we learn from it? I think that's
right.
One of the big takeaways here. And yes, like potentially off this planet as well, but what can we learn even about regeneration and resiliency for life on Earth?
Right. We've talked about Journey to the Center of the Earth. I think we've talked about it, or maybe I just thought about it. But either way, it was a great conversation. And basically what I was getting at is this could be like, maybe there is like Earth does have like life way deep down in there. We're not real sure. So anyway, moving along, let's talk about space. Which is funny because a lot of times on Earth we focus on like the ocean for a minute and then we're like, let's actually look at space because that's more interesting right now. So let's talk about space for a minute. And Johnny, I know you saw this. This is a James Webb telescope detected some light somewhere out there.
Yeah, I think this has actually happened back in 2023, but it was interesting enough that, I think it's the first time that we've detected any form of light emitted from an exoplanet as small and as cool as rocky planets in our solar system. So who knows? I don't think we know what it is yet. I'd like to think it's some sort of an alien city out there. And I think it's a few billion light years away or something like that. Or maybe I'm misquoting that to some extent. But pretty interesting that there's another rock floating around out there that has some light emitting from it.
So potentially city lights, or we're not really sure. But and again, this is not breaking news. It's been out there for a little while. And to be quite frank, this light could be from like 1 million years ago or 1 billion years ago. We're not really even sure how long ago this light was from. But there is light, and it does exist on a planet.
That's right. It could be a volcano. We don't know, but it is. I don't know. It is pretty interesting to see how far technology has come. This James Webb telescope is pretty significant.
It could be a giant lightning bug, like a humongous lightning bug.
But, well, think about how big that bug might be. You might want to rethink that because that's kind of scary,
right? I mean, this could be like dinosaur-sized lightning.
What was that movie back in the '90s that came out where we were fighting those big bugs for their planets? I can't remember right now.
This would be crazy. Anyway, I hope they don't come here.
Could be.
Either way, moving along.
Well, the takeaway from the article was really about what the telescope is capable of capturing.
And
that was a big takeaway.
So
What else is there?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. They can find huge lightning bugs. That's pretty cool. Wait, is that
pretty sure the planet can't support life. It's like, I forget, the temperatures of it were very.
I just really
life as we know it, Jen.
As we know it, you're exactly right. Because what did we just learn about under the sea?
Right. There we go. Coming full circle.
We don't know anything about lightning bugs that size, so this could be new.
We don't know what we don't know.
I don't know why I even thought of that. Anyway, moving along, continuing on the theme of space, NASA, the organization, has picked 3 companies, 3 startups actually, to help drive around the moon. So they're going to start driving around the moon in these lunar outposts, or lunar, I guess you could say, setups. And they're going to use this lunar terrain vehicle, or LTV, to travel around. And so these companies, Intuitive Machines and Lunar Outpost and Venturi Astrolab, are going to design this next generation little vehicle, and it's going to, autonomously, navigate the bumpy regions of the moon.
The terrain.
Yeah, the terrain. So I'm using my hands, guys. I don't know if you see this. This is why I'm doing it, because they can see us now. We don't have to just stand here or sit here. Pretty cool. Anyway.
I love how the images make it look so sexy.
Yeah.
It's like, really, it's got to be, it's like, first of all, there's like no one who's going to be there to really see it, right? Like, you're not cruising the strip.
Well,
but the images make it look so hot. Like, this is a really sexy vehicle that you're going to be cruising around, the
moon,
the rocky terrain.
I thought it was interesting because it's startups like that are getting funded from NASA to build these things, and obviously we love startups and like continue to want to showcase when companies are doing interesting things and like talk about space and NASA. So I thought it was like, it hit all the points except for James Webb. James Webb is another point we could say. James Webb could watch this from afar or something. I don't know. It could be on TV.
Telescope will get some great images.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could be. Yeah, it could be. All right, moving along. AI. We like to talk about autonomous things and artificial intelligence, right? So let's talk about AI, and just our transition is going to be. You all are familiar with J.P. Morgan. Jamie Dimon, the CEO, he's pretty out there and prolific about speaking about different things, especially like he was very anti-crypto and Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden I think they ended up doing a bunch of Bitcoin and crypto stuff, or quote me or correct me if I'm wrong, but either way, he's come out basically saying that AI is not just hype, So it does kind of help with, saying to the market, like, AI is real. It's not going to be, something that's not going to be used. It's going to be out there and it's going to be transformative. So I think we're all on this call or podcast have all really already, gotten there as far as AI, but, and maybe for a lot of the techies that already have too, but not everybody, right? Like some folks may not be all on the same page with what the, technology is going to do and how positive it might be. And so I think it's just an interesting point. And that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I've dabbled with it. And I think they say, statistics vary, but they say 70% of people are incorporating it into their daily lives at work. And so if you extrapolate that entirely over the market, I mean, it is impacting it to some extent. We probably don't know those numbers as of yet, but and this raises a larger philosophical kind of discussion, I think, of are we like what's the value of human being is going to be in the workplace in the future, right? Because there already is impact of AI, and are we ultimately all going to end up working for AI? You know what I mean? Like right now, AI is a tool for all of us, but at some point, I think there is going to be a turning point where, I mean, AI is already smarter than most average humans, right? So once it's dictating the strategy of the company for you, then we ultimately all feels like end up being employees of AI and its strategy. So we're at that precipice right now.
Well, I hope it has smart strategy.
We become the operators, right? So a lot of the courses that I see marketed right now are really trying to direct people into how you direct and operate AI to help you. Yeah, it's not even just understanding it. It's like that is going to be everyone's roles, is how do you become the best at directing it. But I mean, I did like some of the points in the article where they just talked about, like, AI, like how can it speed up discovery? How can it speed up, particularly when it comes to healthcare, like potential cures?
Yeah.
The creative aspects are great, but wow, when you think about the leaps and bounds it could help us make in healthcare, that could be amazing. Or like social solutions.
I mean, there's concerns, like you said, creative, like actors may be out of jobs in the next 10 years, right? Like if this continues, like there could be, you saw some of the video content that's being created now by Microsoft's product. They just put out a whole thing where they created this video by using one photo, right? And it made Mona Lisa sing. I don't know if you remember seeing this week, but it was pretty eye-opening and kind of insane. And if you can take one video of somebody and just like turn it into a video that looks like identical, like that's pretty crazy and powerful. And I think that's going to continue. And then you've got impacts around finance too, right? Like if you're now able to control algorithms that can do things and make trades quicker than light, just because they're reading the environment and they're smarter than us, like what does that mean? Somebody who has those tools and understands how to control it could obviously take advantage of it. So we got to keep an eye on that too. But like, it is going to be about the prompts and how are you controlling and prompting these things to do the things you want? Because it can go wrong if you don't have those kind of.
Well, and I imagine some of the things we're trying to do are incredibly sophisticated, right? Because it's all about the sophistication of the models it's working with, how it's being directed. So once you start really trying to leverage technology to advance science in that way, I imagine there's a whole slew of people who need to be involved in those processes.
There's a science element, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but there's even like the creative side. We mentioned the actors. There's also musicians now standing up against AI. So they're saying like there's a whole coalition of 200 musicians, which included Nicki Minaj, Billie Eilish, Katy Perry, Noah Khan. They all signed an open letter cautioning people against irresponsible use of AI in music. And so think about it. Like if you can take a video and turn somebody into or photo and turn it into a video, can you take a voice and turn it into a whole album? They just drop album after album in the likeness of whoever. Crazy.
Oh yeah, I've just been testing out ChatGPT 4 and the new functionality, and I know that there's I don't know if y'all messed around with the microphone and the speaker functionality where you can. I was actually driving my car the other day, asked the question, and then I ended up having a conversation for 5 minutes with ChatGPT about various different hiring. The hiring aspects of certain things too.
So interesting. Like one of the first.
Did it tell you to keep your eyes on the road?
That's like.
No.
Was it on point? Because I feel like the first episode I think we ever did for Somewhat Frank was about my watch and Siri and how terrible Siri is. No matter what I do, I'd be like, Siri, call blah blah blah, and it like dial like the wrong number. Oh, it's doing it right now. Dang it! Nope, Siri, turn that off. So anyway, it knows its name, but that's about it.
No, this is impressive. If you get a chance, if you have ChatGPT 4 and you subscribe to it and you have the app on your phone, there's a little whatever headset in the corner. Press that. I could probably play it right now on the pod for just so people could hear what it sounds like. But I mean, it even puts in the ums and yeahs, and the dialect is crazy. It's a nice, soothing. Yeah. I have it set up for a female voice, and I had a whole conversation with it. I mean, there is like a beat that it pauses for a second after you ask a question before it answers, but it's pretty wild, and it's I was impressed. We've kind of turned a page with it as far as I'm concerned.
For sure. And I mean that could be a cure for loneliness. I mean, think about it. Like people that don't have other people to talk to all the time, necessarily, that could be a thing, right? Like people are gonna start dating their AI, just like
the Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Yes.
The Joaquin Phoenix movie, Her, from a few years ago. I mean, that's
us,
exactly right.
We are 100% going to live through this. This will be sooner than everyone realizes.
Totally. There's gonna be a marriage. I can see it already. First AI human marriage.
Yeah.
I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen. Anyway, let's move along and talk about a little more sciencey kind of stuff. There, aside from that whole component, there's this generative AI has arrived to gene edit using CRISPR. So, they're able to like change DNA and edit it via AI, which is pretty interesting. I mean, it's powerful, and I think there's the benefit of like the positive side of what things could be done with AI, right? Like being able to gene edit and help get rid of some of these potential issues that humans might be encountering could be part of it.
Yeah, well, it's already happening, right? You can watch videos right now, and we'll put a link in the show notes, but they're currently doing it. It's creating better proteins in DNA right now. And for example, like if there's a bad gene or something that runs in your family DNA, like propensity for certain types of cancers and those sorts of things. I mean, if you think about what we're going to be doing with this, it's already happening, but at some point here relatively soon, we're going to be able to fix a lot of those gene abnormalities and mutations and those sorts of things for the better. So it's very exciting.
So the question is, are we just in an infinite loop? Like, did we create the AI and the AI is creating us, and we're creating the AI and the AI is creating us, and we're just like...
Well, that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier, is at some point, does AI become the operator? Like right now, we're in the phase where we're the operators, but ultimately it can influence and it has us working on tasks for it. So to your point about the loop, but regardless is, this gene editing and 3D printing of different proteins and stuff, it's wild if you think where it can go, and it can start curing. I know, Frank, a big theme with you is extension of life expectancy and those sorts of things. I mean, we're there. It's happening.
Wow, let's talk about that, because I think I pulled an article recently about tricks to live longer. I would like to see what those are. So life expectancy in the US is 76.4 years, with over 70,000 Americans reaching 100 in 2023. That's pretty impressive. That's a lot of 100-year-olds. So we're seeing that kind of continue to push forward and further. And so obviously you start editing genes and getting rid of some of these things that are causing death. Or like Babe Ruth died at like 54 or something, like 53, 54 years old. Like he was in those photos of him at that age, like he's like supposed to be this huge athlete, whatever. He looked like 80. Like, I don't know if it was just harder life or whatever. So I think we're starting to see, 80-year-olds look like they're 50, and it's like, it's pretty impressive the way that things have gone. But anyway, this article talks about blue zones, right? There's a whole, if you want to go watch a whole show or documentary or show about it, it's on Netflix. There's a four episode series, I think, about blue zones. But either way, it talks about the blue zones and things that kind of happen, the habits and principles, and some of those include like, moving naturally, incorporating movement into every day, trying to mitigate stress, and look at a plant slant diet. So not like totally plant, but slanted towards just eating mostly plants, right? Because of inflammation. So the main driver here is inflammation, and then obviously movement and then purpose. So we'll drop the rest of them in the show notes. But the interesting one that didn't show up on that list was, I thought nature would be in there. And so, I don't know, I was surprised a little bit, like being out in nature might like make you live longer or something. I don't, or maybe that's part of the issue is like maybe it's so harsh that you can't live longer out there. I don't know.
Well, I think anything in moderation, right? And a little bit of fresh air and moving around outside, probably a good thing.
Right.
I think, Frank, if you watch, there's that documentary, but there's a lot of different shows and
About it. Yeah.
There's a book about, there's all kinds of things that have been written about blue zones. And I think you see that woven in with like the move naturally. A lot of when they start digging into the very specific, the blue zones themselves, the cultures, that natural movement tends to be, whether it's, working with a group outside doing a Tai Chi class, or your typical like, people who would walk far to get from home to work and back or to wherever. Like, I think a lot of the nature was actually threaded throughout a lot of these activities. It is interesting that it's not called out in this specific list, but I think once you dive into it, it's really woven into a lot of these pieces.
You're getting those breaks. You're not looking at a screen 24/7. You're not
exactly
cycling on social media. And I think so. It leads me to another article which I just saw in Washington Post, which I thought was really cool. They put out this article where you could literally put in your zip code and then map all your green spaces. And so you could like, if you want, I think we'll drop it in the show notes, but it's an interactive article where you can put your stuff in there. It has tools for readers to visualize, where all these green zones are and what neighborhoods and all that. So it kind of gives you a sense of like, where's all the green around me? So it's pretty cool. So if you're looking for nature.
So now imagine that, and imagine like all the data from blue zones and all of this AI. Now imagine what Siri could do. Siri is with you, or any of your, personal assistant, right? Alexa, whoever. Like, imagine that they can take all of this, they know your activities, and they could start to like infuse more of that, not just a standard little alert that says you haven't stood up in 6 hours. Like, there's so much more it could be directing us and helping us to do every day to live longer. I think that's the power, and hopefully we start to see some of that incorporated into the things we're already using.
Right. Yeah. And I think, if you don't have it around you, I guess apparently you're finding it elsewhere, because there's an article recently that talks about how the rich are getting multiple passports. They're moving on. They're going somewhere else. And so they're getting their citizenship to hedge, I guess, I don't want to say the green space. It's probably more about instability in the economy or whatever, or world. So, but it is a thing. Apparently, rich Americans are acquiring second passports if it's available. So I thought that was really interesting. And I know, Jen, we talked about it. We could probably get another citizenship if we wanted to. And I just think it's cool to have, just because whatever. So maybe it's a little more status symbol too. I'm not really sure. But some of these richer folks that are in the list of top, rich people in the world are actually doing it. And they're looking at, countries like Portugal or Malta, due to the favorable taxes, and obviously staying away from places like the Middle East and Eastern Europe, which obviously has been, a little more volatile. Yeah, exactly. And then maybe they are mapping like maybe the green zones, like, right, like where the happiest people in the world. Maybe that's where they're going to go. I don't know, but either way, something to think about. I mean, I've only really thought about living in the United States, but there is that opportunity to like live elsewhere. So kind of cool. We're expanding here. We're expanding people's horizons. Maybe they could go elsewhere and find a really fun lifestyle.
Well, there are some countries that will really work with you if you look at your family's history and you have documentation of their birthplaces. So imagine you had family that came through Ellis Island or something, and you have all their documentation from their motherland. There are countries where you can go and utilize that information to be able to get a passport, get some benefits.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask y'all. People that, for our listeners that aren't as familiar, what the value is in getting multiple, passports and various citizenships, other than the need to potentially flee your home country if you get into trouble for some reason, which I think is probably a big reason why most of these people are doing. I mean, it sounds great, right? Like I'd love to go down to Portugal and hang out for a bit, but like, why are people, rich people doing that?
I think it's the benefits, and it's
taxes.
It's
got to be financial benefit if we're looking at that upper echelon. So probably a combination of financial benefit and comfort.
Yeah, and then I think the other one is just to get rid of the instability if they're in like a place that they find to be somewhat volatile.
Avoidance. I'm sure,
yeah.
John, as you said, there could be some of that as well.
Well, I mean, it brings up, recently in the news, they were saying that P. Diddy was,
I was going to say,
when his homes were being raided, he was flying to, countries that don't have non-extradition with the U.S. so he couldn't, he could live there forever and not get sent back here to undergo trial. I think that was all just kind of a rumor and speculation. I don't think he actually did that, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for me is, if get that second passport, if stuff starts going sideways here in the U.S., you could jump down to Argentina for a little bit, but luckily I don't think I need that. But
well, for others, I think it's also looking at the cost of living has become quite high, and for some folks it could create some new opportunities for a different cost of living, different lifestyle.
Healthcare,
right?
Some of the healthcare stuff is expensive here. It's not as expensive in other places. Sometimes some countries offer it, have similar care, but it's part of that country. Right. Yeah,
well, I mean, it sounds all great in theory, but what I've looked at, the ones that I've looked into, are you have to buy a house for like $250,000 in Antigua, and then you get Antigua citizenship automatically. And I don't think a lot of people can afford a second house or third house or something like that. Some people can, obviously, but
these are rich Americans. So yeah, I mean, that does sound nice. So I think that's something to definitely look into. The Antigua thing. When are we doing that? We looked at Costa Rica, Jen. We looked at Costa Rica, right? Like that's another one's very welcoming. Pura Vida, right? Like that's a very welcoming place. And we actually found some people from Maine down there when we were down there. Ironically, the guitar players playing on the beach is from the town we live in.
Like right up the street.
We see him play at the farmer's market. It's so weird. I don't know how that even happens. But anyway, small world we live in a big ball. Anyway, let's move on to testing. I've been testing some cool things, and it's blowing up my phone right now. I'm testing this new bird feeder. My brother got me this bird feeder. My brother and his wife got me this bird feeder, and Jen as well. This bird feeder from a few years ago for a gift, and it sat in a box, and I forgot about it, and then I found it again. I was like, I set it up. It's got a camera in it. It's pretty cool. It's the NetView BirdFi smart bird feeder, and you put the feed in there, and you got a thing, and then literally the next day I had like birds early birds, right? They get up early with the crack of dawn, and they're in there, and they're getting photos and videos of like the cardinal eating this food, like really close up, like this close up, like I can hear him chewing, like it's crazy. And so, I love it. It's amazing, and it gives me updates all the time. I'm looking for some really rare birds now. I've seen a lot of sparrows and finches. And
squirrels.
Oh, and now the squirrel found it. It took him 4 days. He found it, and now he's up there all the time chomping away. So I had to just order like this fence to go around the darn thing. It's like a protector. So now it's a great business model, actually. They've got me in for all the accessories to keep this thing safe because the birds need the food. And I've already filled it twice because of the darn squirrel. So that's what I've been working on. It's pretty fun.
I've seen the pictures. It looks pretty fun. Have you had any deer in there yet?
No, but I have seen other people. I joined the community. I've seen other people that have this. There's thousands of people who have this same similar setup in their homes, and it's a shared community, so you can see some of their photos if you add them. I've seen like bears in there, like their noses up in there trying to get in. It's been pretty crazy, but I've not seen a bear or a deer up in there yet. It's high enough.
Thank you. I'm really happy about the bear part.
Yeah. So, but it's really neat. That's what I've been testing though lately. And we'll drop a link in the show notes. They're really cool. Very cool. We saw them actually, John. We met the team at CES.
We did, yeah. And the pictures look really great. I mean, it's kind of a fun little hobby y'all have going on there.
Yeah. So the other one I'm trying to attract is hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds. So I've been trying to attract hummingbirds last year, but I didn't have a camera version of the hummingbirds. So I actually don't even know if they actually came. I have no idea if a tree falls in the woods. Do you know if it happened? I don't really know. I don't have a camera, so I have no idea. But now I need to get a camera to put it on this little bird feeder for the hummingbirds and see if the hummingbirds come. So that'll be my next thing.
All right. Well, good luck. I'm gonna see something.
Thank you.
One thing I was going to mention that I've been tested out was, as I kind of mentioned earlier, that we went down to Riviera Maya for spring break, and everybody said, "Oh, you're going out of the country. Be careful, this and that." And so the biggest thing that I learned was kind of a risk factor to people traveling international was carbon monoxide. Like there's been a lot of people traveling and tourists that have not woken up in the morning because of carbon monoxide leaking to their hotel rooms. So I went online on Amazon, found a really pretty interesting. I was like, this is a great business idea. I got to get into this and get ahead of it. People are already doing it, obviously. And so we got a travel carbon monoxide detector that I was going to suggest Frank, because Frank's nickname, for some people that don't know out there, is Safety Frank. So travel carbon monoxide. It's the size of, it's tiny. It's smaller than your cell phone. You just put it next to your bed and forget about it. And hopefully it doesn't ring. Yeah.
I might put one in my bedroom too, just in case. Oh no, we have them. Never mind.
We have them built in.
Well, I might just carry one around because you never know.
Put one on your chain,
on that airplane.
Right around your neck. Yep.
Yeah, I'll put it around my neck.
Well, we got a food cycler, Vitamix food cycler for Christmas that I've like slowly been like getting ready to start using. So I'm hoping this weekend is the weekend and I can start testing it, because now that we have plants, we can use all the material it creates to like help out our plants. So
that's cool. Yeah, it's like it basically is like in lieu of a garbage disposal, right? If you don't have one, we don't have one, so we can't put it into our system. So we have this, and we'll be able to grind things up and put it outside, and not just grind things up. I think it just like does some other kind of magic. All right.
It's composting. Well, like a cheating version of composting.
Composting, yes. All right, moving along. We're watching some things. Royal Palm or Palm Royal. I always call it the wrong thing.
Palm Royal.
It's Palm Royal, and it's on Apple TV Plus, and it's with Kristen Wiig and Laura Dern, and it's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, it's really, really well done and hilarious. So check that out. And then also on the similar channel, the Steve Martin documentary, two-part series, really, really good. So highly recommend.
Well, I discontinued my Apple TV, license or subscription because it didn't seem like there's a lot of new shows they were putting on there. But now I love Kristen Wiig. Yep. Now there's a bunch, and my brother told me there's a Messi documentary on there that's supposed to be amazing, and so I need to fire that back up. One thing I've been watching,
kind of COVID or the strike or whatever, something stalled them for a little bit. I don't know which one, but it slowed them down, and now they've picked back up.
Yeah, that was my main issue with it, but I have to get it back again because there are some shows on there I want to watch right now. One thing I did want to mention before we sign off, we're watching The Three Body Problem on Netflix. Which, have you guys watched that yet?
No, but I remember we recommended it. It was something that came up at South by Southwest, right? We talked about that on our podcast, our Somewhat Frank podcast.
Well, I'm only one episode in. I know that there was a big book that was a favorite of a lot of people, and it kind of incorporates some of the themes we talk about, aliens, and we talk about those sorts of things on the podcast regularly. But I'm only one episode in, but it's it has me at this point. I'm very interested to see what happens, so I'll let you all know. I'll give you feedback later.
Great.
Oh, good.
We'll have to check that out for sure. All right, we're at about time. We've got a couple of things we got to talk about. There are final thoughts. I'm trying to decide which one makes the most sense. Let's find all right, here's a good one. I know probably don't think about this, but hugs have an impact. Did you know this? They can actually increase positive impact on mental health and anxiety. So lower anxiety, increase stabilize, just to make mental health stable. I don't know. What is it?
Stabilize.
That's the word I was looking for. Your mental health, and it's, I guess, just good old fun. So I guess if you get a chance to go hug someone, if they are open to it, and that was one thing I wanted to make sure everyone knew. Did you guys know that or no? About the hug situation? There's a whole report.
I actually did. My wife will come up and grab me and put her cheek. We go cheek to cheek next to each other, and she'll tell me we need to do it at least 20 seconds a day.
Yes,
so
20 seconds. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm familiar. Yeah.
So make sure you're doing it right, guys. 20 seconds a day. Get the hugs in. Also, it's in the article that will drop too, and we'll talk.
Don't they also say like you need a minimum, like kids even need a minimum of like 13 hugs a day to thrive? Wow. There's like a magic number there.
I think so.
That makes sense. Well, on that note, everyone go out and hug some people, your loved ones, everyone, this weekend. We'll leave it at that. All right. Well, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening. Really appreciate it. Hug your loved ones. Thanks for listening to the Somewhat Frank podcast. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe and leave us a review. We love the feedback and are grateful to have you as a listener. Have a great day.